Hey, it's Chris, Legion Games. Let's talk April. Beginning of April. What are the big crowdfunding Kickstarter GameFound games that you need to know for the whole month? Because if you're like me, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have really all of a sudden found some ones I was not expecting myself to back, and I'm looking at my budget for April already going, oh, okay, let's take that into account. So here you go. Here are the big ones that I think you should have on your radar, because invariably I'm backing like 2 or 3 things right now that I wasn't even aware of at the beginning of March or February or January. And that's the crazy thing about crowdfunding, right? And that's the fun thing too. So let's talk about them. Let's have some fun. Let's do this. Smash the like button if you want, and let's get right into it. Look, I would be amiss if anything else took the place of Sleeping Gods Distant Skies as the first game on this video. It's the standalone sequel expansion to the original Sleeping Gods. To say that it's going to do gangbusters would be ridiculous, because it's over on GameFound now, and it's launching on the 18th. So Red Raven Games knows what they got here. They're going full bore. This theme has more appeal to me than the original, and I say that weirdly because the original wasn't not appealing. It was one of those games when it launched on Kickstarter, I said, wow, this is going to be a success. It's just a matter of how good of a success. Floor was high for it. I didn't think the floor was low at all, but the ceiling was high. And the fact that they're just going to give us more, I'll be frank with you guys. I'm not getting a whole lot of big dungeon crawls, legacy games anymore. And this one is probably going to be the biggest temptation, because I'm not going to pay secondary market price for the original Sleeping Gods. I don't necessarily think I need them both. I believe they've said that they're going to offer a reprint of the original, because I'm not going to pay secondary market prices right now for a game I'm worried I'm going to be able to get to the table in the first place, because I think I would be playing it solo, which again, people are loving it from the solo aspect. But the question is just going to be, what new is it going to be adding? Is it going to be like the other GameFound games we have seen previously, similar something to like Kingdom Rush, if you will, where you've got the 1.0 and the 2.0 version, essentially. No offense, they're both good. You can have them both equally, but if you're going to choose one or the other, you're going to choose the second one. And I wonder about this, maybe even, bear with me on this one, is this the Frosthaven to Gloomhaven? I don't know, but it gives me those vibes as well, with saying, okay, we learned some of the criticism, we learned some of the things, and it's already thought of up here, and we're just going to make it and address all of those things as well. Sort of like what Nemesis Games is doing with Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor. Again, I've never been the biggest aesthetic person for Red Raven Games. Very distinct, very unique. You know it when you see it. But again, I've also said with a couple of these other games upcoming, especially with the Japanese ones, like I've mentioned, I'm willing to look past my own personal aesthetic tastes if the game suits my needs. But the bottom line of this is, can I actually get it to the table? And I don't know. I'm looking around my office right now as I'm making this video, and I'm really having the temptation to purge things. Purge stuff that's not getting played. Purge stuff that I know that I would like if I could get it played, but it's not getting played, and therefore to make room for this. All of the big names love this. There's no question about it. There's no doubt about it. They're going to have this little open world adventure available as well. And the question of, see, here's the reprint. The question of what else is going to be involved, and is it going to be as good of a deal? How much is the price going to be increased for the original? How much is the price going to be increased for this? Because there was some, not exclusivity, but there was some definite, you're going to get it first, you're going to get a better deal. And that's been most of the Red Raven MO with their crowdfunding campaigns when they have done crowdfunding, is you're going to get a better price. You're going to get a better price. Maybe some of the deluxeifications might not be widely available, but if you are aware of this and if you want to, you can follow it right here with 12,000 other people. I don't see on the page that they're giving a freebie to people following it already, like almost all the other GameFound games. But you know what? You got plenty of time to do it. So there you go. Check it out. Now, this next one just recently announced the date. So we have a date to talk about now. The other big non-miniature Ameritrash game from a publisher that does very well on crowdfunding, Garfield Games, Wayfarers of the South, Tigris from Shem Phillips. It is going to be on the 26th. Budget accordingly. And again, they have sort of made this distinction that you're going to get it earlier. You may or may not get it for a better price, but they're asking you to support from a publisher standpoint with their trilogies that they have put out. And no one, again, is looking at those and going, wow, I'm not sure about the quality of this game, right? No one's wondering about that. It's just how good is it going to be and whether or not it's going to be for you with the distinct setting and the distinct mechanisms different than what's there previously. And if you know anything about this game, this is going to be a dice worker placement game. And that makes me a little bit interested and a little bit trepidatious, because dice worker placement are one of the few things I can understand a little bit better on the worker placement Euro aspect mechanisms. I'm not very good at the other realms. I'm just not. But with the acclaim that comes with these, I have to always second guess my own, personal bias when it comes to these games, because over this past weekend, I played a ton of new games. And several of them were not of my usual. Australia, Moonrakers, although Moonrakers is definitely a mechanism mechanically that I'm used to, deck building done in a different way, as well as a couple others. And it gives me vibes of this, of I would be more than willing to try this out. Now, am I willing to spend money on it first to know whether or not it's for me? That's the big question with this game, because again, it's not a matter of, with a game like this, can I get it to the table? It's, am I going to ultimately be well serviced by it? Is it going to be more Dune Imperium for me? Or is it going to be ultimately the majority of other heavy Euro style games? And I don't know. The other question that goes along in my head with the other Garfield Games crowdfundings are we going to see anything else along with it? Are we going to see a small expansion? Are we going to see a small module to make that price value even more worth it? Again, just from a why get it now, not the I'm not going to support Garfield Games, because they do a good job and I'm willing to support these companies, period. So again, I don't think there's a lot known about the actual mechanisms. I think they've done a couple live playthroughs, so you can check out some of the video section on Board Game Geek for that. I know the prototypes have been out there for at least a week, almost 2 weeks. I've seen it pop up a couple times on social media of people sort of, hashtag brag, but not brag, saying they got the copy and that they're super excited. So again, I expect good things from this. It's just how good and what does it look like, and is it right for you? Do you have space for it? If you are, and again, I would dare say, if you're like me, you're a fanboy for a lot of these companies because they make things you like. So I would imagine that if you like their other games, this is going to have a high appeal as well. Plus, I mean, look at this board. That is a lot of stuff going on. Okay. I can do it. I can handle it. Dice worker placement. I'm seriously contemplating this. I don't know. You guys can tell me in the comment section what I should do. Next up is an interesting combination of games. And I say that because this is the Dark Quarter from a combination of Van Ryder and Lucky Duck. And I was lucky enough to get a prototype copy of this to be able to play through the first scenario. And I'm not going to tell you my spoiler thoughts on it right now. I'll save that for a separate video. But I'll tell you right now that with the combination of what they've done, it reminds me just on the surface of the better parts of Destinies and the better parts of Chronicles of Crime. And so if you are a fan of those, you should be looking into this. Now, I will say, I'm not sure if you can see it over my face here in the corner. There is an M for mature written down here in the lower left-hand corner of the box, and I will definitely say it is that. This is not family friendly. This is not something you take out with kids. This is not something you play with the family in that aspect because of the mature content. But it's using an app-based system, which again, people feel very strongly about one way or the other, set in a sort of a noir, New Orleans, 1900s vibe, where you're investigating murders and trying to solve them with a supernatural emphasis. I mean, there's a reason she's holding a flame right there. you've got some vampires going on, you've got some cults going on, you've got a little bit of the voodoo thing, and I mean, you're even be able to play as a vampire. They're utilizing mechanisms that you're familiar with the destinies rolling and the refreshing of the die that get exhausted when you use them for skill checks, and you have the cubes on the board that are going to be, let's see if we can find a picture here. Yeah, here we go. However many cubes the sum total goes past, that's how many successes you have. Now, you've got other ability cards up here. You've got items that you're going to be able to use to manipulate those die rolls or to manipulate those results. And so it's very, very, very similar of the Destiny system with a few slight tweaks. And so if you missed out on the Destiny's boat the first hand or the first time around, you should consider this because, again, just like with the other campaigns I've mentioned, I believe Destiny's was significantly sooner and significantly cheaper. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was when it crowdfunded back in the day. And so, again, it's app-driven though, but I'll say it's more like the Destiny system than it is like Chronicles of Crime, if you know what I'm talking about. With the character interactions, a little bit of pass and play, but a little bit of keeping track of things for you, both on the board, but on the app as well. That is launching on the 12th. It was originally supposed to launch at the end of March, and things got delayed. Next up, this is an own personal favorite of mine. I'm going to mention this real briefly. This is Fujiyama with Ajisai, and these are two games that are completely different. Fujiyama is a tile laying placement game where you are using a between the two cities sort of vibe mechanism where you have two tiles, you get them from either person on each side, you have to lay them down to match, and then depending on how well you match, you can get wildlife tokens to get endgame bonuses, but then the one you don't use becomes the one that you pass. And so can you anticipate being able to get that one back for later because they don't use it? Or is it going to be one that you regret that you didn't use in the first place? Ajisai is sort of a hydrangea, flower-based game where you're putting these petals essentially down. I'll pull up a picture here. Here's what Fujiyama looks like, the tiles and then the animals down here that you're winning and laying. Then here's Ajisai, where you can see that the color combinations, you're trying to get most of your color down there, but when you place colors next to other colors, it causes the colors to mutate or change. And so the dynamic is in that aspect. And so this campaign is, again, Japanese imports. You're not gonna be able to get them otherwise. So you get them on crowdfunding, you don't get them at all. It's launching on the 6th. Next up, this is going to be a little bit of a departure, but I've talked about it a few times, and I know a couple of you guys have put in the comment section that you wanted me to talk about this more, so I wanted to include this. Now, this is Quest Kids, Big Bad of Tolk's Cave. If you're not familiar, the original Quest Kids was also crowdfunded. It says ages 5 to up. I mean, my 6-year-old has no problem mastering this whatsoever. But the gist of it is you lay all these tiles down. You've got your little hero miniatures, your little characters, and you lay all of these tiles down onto the grid-based board that you can see behind. And then all you do is you pick one, you go there, you flip it over. Most of the time it's going to give you resources, one of the 3 different resources of cards that you need. And those resources, as you can see, are used to, when you flip over one of the enemy monsters, cash in to get the monster defeated. But then that gets you stars. Stars are victory points. You play for the most victory points. And you know what? This is one that my kids have requested to play several times. And this is my 8-year-old as well. And so I like it, but it is something a little bit basic. And the only problem was I got the retail version, which did not have this expansion, the Trials of Tolk the Wise, which was included when it funded originally on crowdfunding, which adds a few things, including 5 unique quests, puzzles, more impactful story-driven choices, and more powers. I mean, and open sealed envelopes. I'm a little bit disappointed I don't have that because it would address my few criticisms with this game. Now, then we have a second expansion being offered. And again, will I be able to pick up the first expansion during the crowdfunding campaign if I get this one? Details are a little sparse. Now, if you go over to the website, you can see that you can order that expansion that I was just talking about right here. And it's more of a little bit of a campaign-ish driven abilities, more essentially, more like a Zombie Kids Evolution-esque style. And then the question is just going to be, okay, well, what is this new expansion going to give me as well? New players, new items, unique stuff, bosses, and makes it more of a little bit of a true crawl. So again, I think that this is appealing because it's a gateway for my kids right now who, even my 8-year-old, it just, with the Switch and with the iPad, it's hard to get them enthralled with the stuff that we have. Especially starting younger, they've sort of become numb to some of that stuff. They don't want to do that as well or as much anymore. So getting them new and enthralled with something like this is the reason I'm seriously looking at it. And if they offer the bundle of a slightly lower, including the previous expansion, which isn't bad at all, I think it was $19 on the website, I'm going to be seriously looking at this one to be getting it. And that is going to be launching on the 15th. Now, this next big one, we don't have a date for yet at all, but this is from Mythic, sometime potentially in April. They've been saying soon for a while, and this is Anastyr. This is based off of Bronze Age set in the Mediterranean, where you are one of 6 Korbach heroes. And again, it's a Mythic game, so this is miniature dungeon crawl-esque world developing that aspect, where you are trying to defeat the evil witch Anastyr, who is trying to harness or awaken an evil dragon to conquer the land. Based off of a miniature line from around 10 years ago, that is the backstory setting of this game. Just from what we know, they say that the way or the manner in which your character fights will change based on the techniques that are available to them or that they accumulate over the course of the battle, including things like Fury, which is going to make you stronger as a metric that you can accumulate to do more or more powerful or more devastating attacks as you go. There is going to be a campaign mode that again is going to allow you to enhance your character's abilities and their development as you go along. And you're also going to have to choose techniques that are known as combos, they say right here, that are going to give you choices. Do you take the card effect best suited to the immediate, or bring you closer to one that triggers what's known as the ultimate combo? Again, lots of aspects here. This is the other unique thing that they're doing with the miniatures. You have some sort of magnetized system that allows you to attach your character to a mount. Game mechanics, grid-based movement with board and tile scrolling, more akin to Machina Arcana in that aspect. And they say as you're moving along, you literally are discovering new things as it goes. Terrain, enemies, and just each region of the world is going to provide you something different in that aspect. They break down what it looks like here: player aids, adventure book, event cards, all of the characters. They break down what the character cards themselves look like in terms of the statistics and the special abilities and the combo tracking. So you can see what the technique cards look like. So, I mean, there's a ton of information here on how you're actually playing already, which, to be frank, is very nice. I haven't seen as much of this from Mythic up front. Again, there's been a couple unboxings. I think Board Game Co. maybe, or Quackalope has something out there, or they will, I'm assuming. Quackalope does, I think, all of their projects. And then King of Average already has an unboxing as well out there. So you can start to see what this is looking like from a different mechanical standpoint, as apart from just the thematic backdrop, if you will. Again, plenty of information running through the characters here on the forums. You can also go over to the website and you get a bunch more of the same information here. So you can get all of it already, a significant amount. So again, we're kind of waiting to see. They haven't announced a date, but we'll be on pins and needles when they ever announce it. Next up on the 11th, this one is, again, I'm going to tell you guys about this one. I had a chance to play this one hands-on. I'm not a solo person. If you are a solo person at all, or if you like trick-taking games at all, I highly recommend you check this one out for Northwood. This is a very, very good game. I don't say that lightly either. It's a little bit random. It's just some stuff you can't fully mitigate, but it is a solo trick-taking game, and it does a fabulous job from Will Suit. If you go to the Board Game Geek page, it's actually the winner of 2021's Best Solo 54 Card Game, create your own sort of designer contest. Not just best solo game, but best game overall, 54 card, as well as best art and best new designer. And so those aren't given out easily, folks. This is a good game. I just sent it on to another person that's going to do content on it as well, but it's something completely different. You have these different fiefdoms, and you're essentially trying to win as many tricks from those fiefdoms as you can, but each of the fiefdoms are numbered 1 through 8. And so in the one fiefdom, you can only win one trick from the hand that you have. In the fiefdom of 8, you have to win all 8, and you only have 8 cards in your hand. So how do you accomplish that? Because the trump is also designated by the royal that's at that fiefdom. Now you have ways to mitigate that, and those are the jacks that are down here that you can kind of see. I'll blow it up here. Now, this person has already swapped out their jacks for other fiefdoms that they have won from. Kings, queens, ladies, that give different abilities to mitigate and to change your hand or change the suits or discard cards or redraw cards. And it's just done in an amazingly well way. I cannot hype this one enough if you are a solo fan or a trick-taking fan. And I'm going to guess that as a one-box game, the price is going to be relatively good as well from that aspect. So if you're interested at all in this, I suggest you check it out on the 11th. Next up, if you ever wanted to be Ace Attorney but missed your first chance the first time around, this is Lawyer Up, the board game equivalent, and they're going to be launching Season 2 on the 12th, where this is a 2-player head-to-head game where one is the prosecutor and one is the defense attorney, and you are taking those roles on in order to either convict or set free the client or the accused, depending on how you want to look at it. You, as both lawyers on either side, will be going through several phases, the first of which you are going through discovery, where you are trying to sort through the evidence that you are going to best use for your defense or accusations that you can then combo in the next section in combination with calling witnesses to testify on your behalf and then using your influence to sway the jury. If you missed it the first time around, they're going to be having a full Season 2 of different court cases that you can go up head-to-head against. So you'll be able to see what that looks like on the 12th. Another interesting game launching on the 19th, Castles by the Sea from Brotherwise Games. Did you ever want to make your own sandcastle, only as a board game? Well, that's essentially what you're doing in a Santorini-esque, just very vaguely, style of abstract, but also somewhat perfect information, somewhat not, in the sense that the only randomness is going to be the hazards, but you can also control some of the hazards. And so you're trying to create victory points based on the spatial developments that you're doing in this 2 to 4 player game. This one has me very excited. I have several other games like this. One on the way, Block and Key from Connor McGoy. I'm always forgetting his last name. The gentleman who also just did the Earth game that was recently funded in the $500,000 on crowdfunding. They did Block and Key, which was a puzzle like this as well. It reminds me almost of a 3D Realms of Sand as well, if you've ever heard of that game. But it just looks kind of cool. And as a 2 to 4 player, you're all doing it on the same grid, same map style of things. This one probably is going to be high on my list of things getting high consideration to put my money towards this month, because I know I could also get it to the table. It's just, I need to see it in action, and I need to see what it looks like on the actual campaign. But that is launching on the 19th. Next up, last up, is Damask. This is a silk spinning game launching on the 27th. Now, all you're trying to do is set, collect, and pattern match, and that sort of thing, right? No simple task. But this looks like something different. It reminds me, just on the concept alone, more like Mandala, the 2-player head-to-head game. And I'm really intrigued by that. I want to see what this can do. You're trying to predict and trying to figure out what's going to be going ahead next in this progression and how you're going to basically manipulate it or maximize it in order to score the most points based on spinning the most silk and earning the most money. And this is a 1 to 4 player game, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do with this. I know people at whatever one of the latest conventions were very excited by the actual play of this. And so I think it deserves a little bit of dark horse hype here at the end of the month. Again, launching on the 27th. Check it out when we reach that point. Okay, that's it. Those are my big ones to have an eye on that you might need to budget for sometime in the month. And of course, everything else that always comes up between now and then. If you like this, I do weekly roundups and upcomings that I just like talking about. So, just like talking about games. Thanks for watching. That's all I got. Have a great day. Play something or not. Just have some fun. I'm learning how to play Root on the iPad. It's not going well. I played the Eerie last night. learned how to play as the Eerie. So like the Eerie is going against the cats, and they're like, "Hey, get 10 points, victory points to complete the tutorial with the Eerie." And so I'm like, "Okay." I did eventually, right? Cats were at 40. That's all I got. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.